Hey everyone, I hope you are having a wonderful start to the new year. One of the things that I love about January is starting new journals. So I wanted to make this video sharing several of my journaling methods that help me to boost my productivity and creativity. And I'd also love to hear from you in the comments since this is one of my favorite topics. So I'd love to hear if you have a journaling method that you use and what are your tips and whether you're going to be keeping a journal in this new year. All right, so let's get started with the first journal, which I call my productivity journal. And this is the one that really helps me to stay on top of all of my different projects. So as a writer, I am, working on nonfiction projects and fiction projects, and then I'm making videos for this YouTube channel and writing blog posts for my website. And then I also have all of the different projects that I'm working on for clients. So this journal really helps me to stay organized, to see what I'm working on each day, and also to figure out what times of day are when I am most productive. And so I kind of know when I should be working on different projects. And this journal was actually inspired by Benjamin Franklin's daily schedule. So I came across Franklin's schedule a few years ago, and I actually wrote an article about it. I'll put a link to that in the description. And I just found it really, really fascinating looking at the schedule. It comes from his autobiography. And as you may know, he was a polymath, so he also had a lot of different projects he was working on. He was a scientist, a diplomat, an inventor, a writer. So he also, needed to stay organized. So let's look at his schedule really quick. So you'll see on his schedule that he's waking up at 5 a.m. So obviously, I'm not saying that you need to follow his schedule. I just like seeing this method. I think it's a really fantastic method where he's dividing his day into different blocks of time, and he's also giving himself a template to use. So obviously yours is going to look different depending on what your schedule is like. You might need to organize your day and know this is the time. If you're not working from home, if you're going on a commute, you'd have to put time in there for your commute. And also, your days might not all look exactly the same. So you might have a different template for different days of the week. And I actually don't have a daily schedule for the weekend. That, this is really just for my weekdays that I create a template like this. But then once you have a template for yourself of basically, how you're going to be dividing your day up, when are your work hours going to be, and then when you're going to have time for your other activities, or you might say this is the time when I'm working on fiction projects, this is the time when I'm going to be working on nonfiction projects, then you can use that template each day to create your daily schedule. And then what I also like to do is I have a schedule also for the week and then one for the month as well. And so I can take from those to see what I need to work on each day. So the evening before or in the morning when I'm writing up my daily schedule, looking at my template to know, when are the times, that I'm going to have these different activities, and I can kind of plug them in there. Then I can also look at my monthly to-do list and see okay, what are the projects that I need to start working on, and then move those into my weekly to-do list. And then for my weekly to-do list, say what projects do I need to start, maybe I don't need to start working on something on Monday. If it's on my weekly to-do list, maybe I decide oh, I'm going to wait until Thursday to work on this. It's not urgent or whatever. So basically, by having all of these different to-do lists and this daily schedule, I'm able to keep this journal, which becomes basically a daily log. And if you look at Benjamin Franklin's schedule, you will see that he has on his schedule, he has the morning question, what good shall I do this day? And the evening question, what good have I done today? And I don't know if he actually sat down and wrote out answers to these questions, but when I first came across this schedule, I thought oh, that's a really interesting habit to do, where at the end of every day, you're looking back over your to-do list and seeing, what went well, what didn't go well, and you're kind of reviewing your day. So what I do with this journal is at the end of the day, or it could be in the morning, depending on when I have time, I will look back over my to-do list and see, what projects I checked off. So I usually make my to-do list in Evernote where you're able to check off everything. So I can, it's very fast, it's very simple. You just check off your different tasks. And then at the end of the day, I can write up exactly, these are all the projects that I worked on, so I know what I worked on that day. And then what I'll do at the end of the week is I'll be able to look back over all of my entries and see like, what did I accomplish this week? And then just write up a little review for the week. And then at the end of the month, you can write up a review for the month. And what I have found is that this is really, really helpful at seeing like the rhythm of how you work. So I've been able to see, what days I'm even like most productive with my writing. What I really love about keeping this daily log and then reviewing, what I accomplished, first, it keeps me accountable because I know I'm going to be writing this down as a record, at the end of the day. So I want to be able to write down as many things as I can. So it does make me want to get everything done on my to-do list for that day. And I also really like it because it helps me to remember what I worked on. And you can also look at it to see, how you work best. So you might see, it's interesting that I tend to write more at the beginning of the week, and then maybe at the end of the week I'm not, and maybe that's because there's something else that's going on those days, and maybe that would be a better, maybe on those days I should do a different project, so for example, I might know that Mondays I always have like a lot of energy, and that might be a great time, I'm really excited for the start of the week, and that might be a great time to write scripts for YouTube videos or something like that. And then I know later in the week, there's something else that I should be working on. So it's a great way to really see how you work. You can write down your word count totals at the end of your projects, and like each day seeing like how many words you wrote each day and things like that. So I just find it a really great way to stay organized, to stay on top of projects, to keep your motivation up, and just be able to continually be reviewing as you set goals for yourself. And of course, you can also expand this so you're not only keeping track of the different projects that you're working on. You can also keep track of books you're reading and movies you've watched. And so I like to, at the end of the month, when I'm doing that month in review, I'll put like highlights of the month, and I might write down, like all the movies I watched that month or all the books I read that month, if I, went to any cool places or things like that. And I also like to do like a monthly reflection, kind of just talking about, what went well this month, what didn't go well, and, what can I do better in the next month, and setting goals for myself in that month as well. Now, I've heard from a lot of people that they find it really difficult to keep a daily log and to stay consistent. So I have found two things that really help me. And first of all, it is to be like, just make this as easy and simple as possible. So I found that by just using my to-do list, that makes it really easy because I'm just taking the things right off my to-do list and just writing them down. So it's not like I have to go in, like really be thinking about like, what was everything that I was doing today, but I can just take those off of my to-do list. And the second thing is that I actually keep this journal on my computer. So I use an app called Day One, and I just find that I write so much faster when I'm on my computer rather than writing by hand. So I like to keep this journal on my computer. You, of course, could keep it in a notebook if you wanted to, a physical notebook, that's fine. But I just find that it's really easy to keep this on my computer because at the end of the day, I can just go and look at all of my projects. You can use abbreviations for things when you're writing it down, so it doesn't have to be like writing out full sentences. You could just put like, worked on novel, and you might even like worked on and period word count. So it just can be like very, very brief. It doesn't have to be that in depth. But I like keeping it on my computer also because I can go back and edit entries if I wanted to add something. If I skipped some days, I don't have to like worry about needing, more pages or something like that. I can just go back and add those entries. So really it's up to you if you want to keep it in a physical notebook. If you want to type it up, I again use Day One for the writing up the different entries, and I use Evernote to create those to-do lists. So I like things to be like really basic and easy and simple. So I hope that I'd love to hear if you end up keeping a productivity journal as well. Okay, so that was my main journal that helps me to stay on top of all of my different projects. But I also wanted to share some of the other journals that I do keep, and I do keep a physical journal in a notebook. And this one is, because I've already am keeping that daily log, this one I'm not actually like writing down everything that I'm doing during the day. I can if I want to, but it was kind of inspired by Julia Cameron's morning pages in her book, The Artist's Way, where she talks about writing 3 pages every morning just to help you unlock your creativity. And if you have, thoughts that are kind of blocking you from being creative, just to get all of those thoughts on the page. And also a few years ago, I came across John Steinbeck's notebooks that he kept while he was working on East of Eden. And I found that really, really interesting, how he would just journal about like any difficulties that he had while he was writing. He would talk about, just different ideas he had for his book and things like that. And so I do keep this other journal that's a physical journal, and I'm not really, I don't have rules when it comes to this journal. I'm not, like Julia Cameron says, you have to write 3 pages every single morning. And I'm kind of more flexible with that, where I might write in the afternoon. I do like writing in the morning, but I might write 1 page or just a paragraph. It depends on how much time I have that day. But with that journal, I do like to, write about my different writing projects. So if I have an idea, I might start brainstorming in that journal, or if there's something else that I want to write about, ideas for projects, ideas for novels, or anything that I'm working on, or it doesn't even have to be related to writing, just like something that I want to write about in that journal. So I think that is a really great way, writing by hand and having that physical notebook that you are putting your ideas into. I think that is a great way to inspire yourself and to unlock your creativity. So I also wrote about that in an article. I'll put a link to that in the description, and another article that I wrote about different writers' notebooks. So make sure to check out the description for those links. And also this year, I just got a Moleskine. This is like a sketchbook, so it has blank pages. And I wanted to try keeping some kind of an art journal. So this is something that's completely new in 2020. I started drawing, just doing different courses online, and I'd like to continue that hobby. And this just seems like a really great way to continue to, inspire your creativity. So I've seen different ideas online where people, they're really great artists, and they'll do sort of like an entry for the day, where they'll make little drawings of things that they did that day, or they might have a collage, or I've even seen people who are sort of drawing pictures to help them with plotting their novels and things like that. So not sure what exactly I'm going to do with that. I'd love to hear if you have any ideas for art journals, if you keep one. And yeah, so those are the 3 different journals that I'm planning to keep this year. I hope that gives you ideas for your own journaling. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this one. And I'll also put a link to my email newsletter where you can subscribe and get more writing resources. Thank you so much for watching. Have a fantastic week. God bless, and I wish you all the best with your projects this year.